How's it going, Yankee fans? My name is Alex, and my co-host here, Ryan Garcia. And yesterday was kind of a weird day where Yankee legends Jeter, even Joe Torre, and Mariano Rivera all kind of gave their opinions on the Cashman Boone situation. There's a lot of obvious rumors going on, but Hal Steinbrenner did say yesterday that Boone is going to be coming back. Like, he has no reason to believe that he should be fired. And Cashman, they've had preliminary talks about him, staying on a contract extension. So I expect that to get done as well. But there was one interesting comment from Mariano Rivera that really kind of sparked my interest, and I wanted to share it with you guys. I wanted to, talk about it with you, Ryan, and it definitely kind of points to something a little bit more interesting, right? So obviously the Yankees utilized that 2004 Red Sox 3-0, deficit in the ALCS to come back and beat the Yankees. And Jeter was like, I don't even like thinking about that. I don't really know why they'd show that. I don't know the context, but it definitely doesn't make much sense. But Rivera, regarding Aaron Boone, said something pretty interesting, and I think it was worthwhile to share. He said, if I'm the owner, Aaron Boone wouldn't stay. When things don't come out the way we want them to, all the fault goes on the manager, and somebody has to pay the price, and we won't put that on the players. So I have some arguments for and against that take. It's definitely interesting, Ryan. What are your thoughts on that, and how you do today, my friend?
I'm doing all right. I think, when you look at the Yankees this season, it's very easy for us to sit back and say, yes, Aaron Boone takes part of the blame for this. He's the manager. I think, I think it's reasonable to say he's part of the reason why the Yankees lost. But at the same vein, everyone's in the organization, every player, everyone is a part of why the Yankees lost. Ultimately, I don't think Hal Steinbrenner and Brian Cashman picking a new manager really changes much. People are going to say, well, it's a new voice. Well, I mean, we know that the front office influences a lot of lineup and bullpen choices. We know that, a lot of that comes from data. Front office provides a lot of data for the managers, and they kind of make decisions based on that. And so the job of a manager has, kind of shrunk a little bit. The responsibilities they have kind of been passed on to people in the front office, in the organization, coaches, all that stuff. So is Aaron Boone being fired or replaced with, people suggest Don Mattingly. Don Mattingly, what has he won? Well, he was with LA for a while. What did he win there? They were perennial playoff losers. They, not to say losers is like an insult, but they lost the playoffs a lot. And then in Miami, there was a lot of not great moments with whether it was Jazz Chisholm coming out and, tweeting about how he was upset he wasn't in the lineup or something like that. Like, it's not like we're talking about a guy who's necessarily a great all-time manager. He's a great all-time Yankee, but that's different than being a manager. And I think it's a lot easier for us to sit back and say, get a new manager, than it is for us to sit back and say, well, who's that manager we're going to go out and get? Am I saying Aaron Boone being replaced would make the Yankees worse if the Yankees couldn't do it? No, but I just don't look at it. I don't look at Aaron Boone as the guy that I need gone or I don't look at the manager position as a place that, like, if it's changed, it'll have big effects on the Yankees. I look at, bringing Judge back. I look at, outfield help or infield help, or whether we're calling up rookies or not. Hell, I'd look at the general manager spot before I look at the manager spot. Ultimately, Aaron Boone is only as good as the players in front of him. And he didn't tell Josh Donaldson to, regress this year. He didn't tell IKF to make a bunch of errors at shortstop. He didn't tell, Andrew Benintendi to swing and break his hamate bone. He didn't tell DJ LeMahieu to fracture his toe. He didn't tell Matt Carpenter to take whether I think it was a hit by pitch in Seattle.
Foul ball off his foot.
Yeah, foul ball. Right. My bad. It's not like he orchestrated these things. These things happened. And we can point to prior postseason. We can point to individual moves and say, we don't agree with this or we don't agree with that. But in the long run, in the big picture, Aaron Boone has not affected the Yankees World Series chances in a way that would require him getting fired. It's more so the players on the field underperforming, the philosophy of the organization. Those are things that we could point at as reasons the Yankees failed in the postseason. And I think that comes way before manager. And so I respect Mariano Rivera to the highest degree. He is a god amongst men in the Yankee world. However, I think that's more of an approach that he's taking because of the fact that, back in the 90s, the expectation was championship or bust, because there's a little less parity in the league back then. So I totally understand his perspective of it. But in terms of just looking at it from a 2020 perspective, the Yankees, or 2022 perspective, this Yankee team isn't much different with or without Aaron Boone.
Yeah, so I think that's kind of, and it was funny because I think Brian Hoke of MLB Network just tweeted out that Mariano Rivera said his tweets or his comments were taken out of context, and I don't really understand how your tweets could be or your comments could be taken out of context when he literally said, if I'm the owner, Aaron Boone wouldn't stay. Like that was verbatim what he said. He said it was more generic. I don't understand it. Sounds like the Yankees are like, you got to walk those back a little bit. But I'll tell you what, I think that you're onto something with the argument that, Aaron Boone can't play for the players. He can adjust the lineups, he can communicate. And I'll tell you what, there was a lot of shortcomings with communication. I think that, not utilizing Clay Holmes and everyone being like, why not? Harrison Bader not knowing what the lineup was before the game. That's kind of strange. There were some scenarios where I think that Boone was implicated. I think that he deserves criticism and fault, but I don't think that he could affect how, Jose Trevino was batting in the playoffs. I don't think he could affect how Judge was batting in the playoffs. That's not up to him. That's up to the individual player. So I think that's probably a pretty good argument in the sense that, he can't play for them. He could only adjust the lineup to try and tweak things and maybe provide a spark. And he tried every day. We saw a new lineup, right? How many teams in the postseason are you seeing change their infield every single day, change their lineup every single day? And there's not even like there was more injuries happening. He was just tweaking things because he had no idea how to get this team to play better. And I'll tell you what, showing 2004 highlights of the Yankees losing definitely doesn't rub me the right way. I don't know if you have any take on it, but I think that's the stupidest thing you could do. Your arch rivals, one of the most disappointing series in the history of this team, and you're showing that to motivate your players. That logically makes no sense to me, but I don't think that was him. I think that was more so the psychologist of the team that was just completely tone deaf, as Michael Kay said. But for right now, I think that if you replace Aaron Boone, the question is who's better? Who do you replace him with? Who's going to take over and suddenly make this team a World Series caliber squad? You look at what Dusty Baker's doing for the Astros. They just have a phenomenal modernized system. I don't know if you posted this, Ryan, but I saw a visual the other day that showed who all of like the analytical and the front office people were for the Yankees and then all the front office people for the Astros. And they're like night and day differences, right? Like all of the people from the Astros were hired within the last like 5 years, completely modernized their entire franchise and organization. And the Yankees have had the same people for the last like 50 years. And they have not really taken that step forward as an organization to modernize the front office, which therefore hurts the team. They actually said that Aaron Boone had a lot of say in what the lineup was going to be. It wasn't very analytically driven. So my question for you, Ryan, is like, how do you balance this analytical age in sports? Do you just go full in? It seems like the Astros are just full on. They're analytically driven, and they make those decisions based on the numbers. It seems that the Yankees are like walking this tightrope where like some of their decisions are analytically based and some of them are gut based. Like Aaron Boone makes the lineup. How do you think this kind of plays into how the Yankees can take a step forward in just terms of like kind of becoming a team that doesn't just half-ass it, like they have to either go all in or they have to not go all in. And then they're kind of playing this in-between game where it doesn't seem like it's working out very well.
Now, I will say, in terms of that graphic, that I didn't post it, but I did see it. Yes, there is a lot of guys in that organization, a lot of people in that organization that have been around for a very long time. That can be one of two things. One, the organization's content with what they're doing. This team has, in those people's tenures, in those executive roles, the Yankees have been a consistent playoff team, which you can give them credit for. But in the same vein, you always need new voices. You always need to infuse your organization with youth. Look at the Astros, as you mentioned, that is a very young front office. And part of that, of course, is because of the cheating scandal. I want to clarify, a lot of people lost their jobs after that scandal. A lot of people were forced to resign. A lot of people went elsewhere. A lot of things changed for the Houston Astros organization. However, the Yankees can still infuse. You don't have to fire people to have youth in your organization. You can just expand, your front office, right? The Yankees did not fire a lot. They did fire some coaches last year, but they expanded their coaching staff. And I think this year's team was a lot better than last year's team. And am I going to sit here and say that it's only because of the coaching staff? No, but I'm going to sit here and say that last year's team, on paper at least, was significantly less talented than this year's team. I'm also not going to say that. I think those two teams are similarly talented. One team struggled to get to 90 wins. The other team ran away with the division. I think that comes down to, the improvement in coaching. I think organization has like they have evidence, not just, evidence from across the league and league-wide trends, but anecdotal evidence from their own experiences with expanding coaching and expanding front office roles, that they definitely know that you can go out, and if you bring in these new voices, if you bring in more people, that it only improves your organization, only improves your decision making. Can you have too many cooks in the kitchen? Absolutely. And finding that balance is important. But this team needs to be, all in analytically. This team needs to, continue to modernize this team. I think a lot of people assume like analytics says strikeouts are good. No, outs are bad. Outs are, anything that's an out is bad, right? Analytics do not love strikeouts. Analytics do not love whiff rates. In fact, high whiff rates and high strikeout rates are reasons why teams may stay away from a player, or they may not call up a young minor leaguer because they have a high whiff rate. However, what analytics do say is that there's an added importance in getting on base, in, slugging a lot. There's a lot of concepts in terms of run creation, how to create runs, how do you create run scoring opportunities, that goes into analytics and data. And then the pitching side of it is, the Yankees have done a very good job with that. And ultimately it comes down to, when we look at October, the Yankees just looked outmatched against breaking pitches. They looked outmatched, as a team against a very good pitching staff. They struggled to make contact. They struggled to walk. They struggled to keep themselves in the strike zone. They just looked lost. Would it have helped to have Benintendi and LeMahieu fully healthy? Yes, absolutely. And can we say that's part of the reason why they got embarrassed versus just losing? Yeah, I can say that. But part of that is, hey, maybe maybe we shouldn't rely on a 34-year-old LeMahieu to be healthy throughout the season. Maybe we need to reduce his role. Getting younger, right? This team is going to get younger on the field because they have prospects coming up. That's something that I can guarantee Yankee fans. This team needs to go out and have a big offseason, right? This team needs to go out and make sure they spend, but this team needs to also make sure it can get talent at the margins. And that's why, again, you get those new voices that, can see value in players, that and see angles and see things that, people that have been in baseball for 20, 30, in Cashman's case, almost 40 years. He's been interning for the Yankees since 1986. They can see things that those people cannot see. And that's why the Yankees need to, as you mentioned, be like the Astros, get some younger people, get some younger voices, get some new ideas in the fold so that we can try to shake things up a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's definitely going to be some changes this offseason, just a matter of how serious they are. I think that, you're kind of right in the sense that, depending on a 34-year-old, 33-year-old, DJ LeMahieu definitely might not be ideal. But, as we mentioned in the last episode, maybe Oswaldo Cabrera turns into that, like, main utility man. Maybe they bring in a guy who can really help in that facet, but they gotta workload some of these guys. Like, some of these guys have to be managed in terms of their workload to prepare them for the playoffs. So we'll see how they kind of approach this in the future, because not having Benintendi, not having DJ in the playoffs was just devastating. We saw it firsthand. We couldn't get on base. They're two of the best playoff hitters that we have. Not having them it just sucked. And then, of course, losing some of our bullpen arms, and Montas not playing well, hurt as well. But, I just really wanted to discuss that Mariano Rivera comment and see what you guys thought about it, because it definitely was interesting. I don't think that I fully agree with it. I think that, it's very fair to blame the players, and, the stuff coming out yesterday that, players thought that the postseason in the Bronx was brutal. Probably Josh Donaldson, telling their agents that it just sucked to see like Aaron Judge get booed and stuff like that. The players have to be blamed too. You know what I mean? Like this whole idea that the coaches have to be the scapegoat is nonsense. The players are the ones that actually have to do it. And if they don't come through, if they don't play well, that's on them. That's not on Aaron Boone all the time. It's not on Cashman. These guys are talented. Like, objectively, they are all extremely talented. They're all able to perform very, very well against any pitcher, against any team. And they just didn't. And that's not anyone's fault but their own. So I think that's kind of the argument working against what Mariano Rivera said, but I am curious to hear what you guys think about that. So, drop your comments below in the YouTube section. Always curious to see those. And as always, make sure to enjoy the rest of your day. Like and subscribe to the channel for daily updates and content over the off season. There's going to be a lot of it. So, tune in to make sure you don't miss out on anything. But appreciate everyone showing up, tuning into the latest Fireside Yankees episode, and we'll catch you guys on the next one.